Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name is Andrew, and if there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's that the smallest things people brush off as nothing can be the cracks that eventually shatter a relationship. One topic most men don't openly discuss is territoriality. If he dares to express that he doesn't like another man getting too comfortable around his wife, suddenly he's insecure. That word, insecure, gets thrown around so much that men have been conditioned to stay silent, to bottle up their discomfort, and to pretend things don't bother them when in reality they do. But here's the truth. Most men are territorial, and they want respect in a way that simply means, if I'm committed to you and chosen to build my life with you, then I expect the same loyalty and respect in return. I've been married to Deborah for many years, and for the most part, things were good. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but I never had a reason to doubt her loyalty. At least, not until I stumbled upon something. One evening, while unwinding, Deborah sat beside me, casually texting someone. It was nothing out of the ordinary, until I noticed the name on her screen. It was a guy she once admitted to having a huge crush on before we started dating. She never made it a secret back then. I remember when she first told me about him, laughing it off like it was nothing. "Oh, I used to have the biggest crush on him," she had said. But that was a long time ago. Back then, I didn't think much of it. Everyone has past crushes. It's normal. But now, that same guy was back in her life, and she was texting him. I worried if it was really just casual conversation, or was there something more? I could have asked her right then and there, but I hesitated. She wasn't hiding her phone. She wasn't acting guilty. If I confronted her now, what would I even say? I saw a name on her screen and suddenly felt uneasy. That didn't feel like enough. I knew that if I brought it up without anything solid, she might laugh it off, call me paranoid, or even get defensive. And the last thing I wanted was to start an unnecessary argument. Instead, I decided to wait and observe. I kept quiet, but my mind kept circling the same questions. What if this leads to something more? What if I say nothing now and later I regret it? I didn't know the answer then. But looking back, I should have trusted that feeling in my gut. When we started trying for a baby, things slowly changed. At first, we were hopeful. But then came the first miscarriage. I was devastated, but Deborah, she was broken. She cried for days, barely speaking. I tried to comfort her, holding her at night, telling her we'd try again, but she barely responded. And then, when she finally carried a pregnancy to term, we thought our nightmare was over. We were wrong. The baby was stillborn. That day at the hospital, I watched the light in her eyes go out. I was grieving too, but for Deborah it was different. At first I thought she just needed time, but as the weeks passed, her sadness turned into something else. She became distant, giving short responses, avoiding eye contact, and spending more time in the bedroom alone. Then it escalated. She snapped at me for little things that never used to matter. It felt like she was blaming me, even when she never said the words outright. Conversations that should have been simple turned into arguments. No matter what I did, it was wrong. And yet I kept trying. I told myself she was hurting, and this was temporary. Then she made new friends. One had never been married, the other was divorced, and suddenly they became her entire world. She started spending more time with them than with me, going out more often. I didn't want to be the controlling husband who told his wife she couldn't have friends, so I let it slide. I later figured she wasn't just hanging out. She was partying, clubbing, staying out late. At first, I tried to be supportive. If this made her happy, then maybe it was good. But the more it happened, the more uneasy I felt. One night, she was getting ready for another girls' night. I watched as she stood in front of the mirror, fixing her hair. I finally spoke up. "Deborah, this isn't right. This kind of behavior, it's not befitting of a married woman." She turned to me, reacting like I had just told her the most ridiculous thing she'd ever heard. Then she laughed. "You can't stop me from having fun." She grabbed her purse and walked out the door. That night, I stayed up waiting. She didn't come home until morning, with no apologies or explanations. One evening, Deborah walked up to me, announcing we got invited to a wedding. It was from a mutual friend of ours. someone we both knew but weren't particularly close to. The wedding was happening across the state, which meant packing, booking flights, and spending an entire weekend away from home. It felt like too much trouble for an event I wasn't even interested in. So, without much thought, I told Deborah, "We're not going." But she didn't let it go. She was way too excited about this wedding for some reason. The way she talked about it, you'd think it was her sibling getting married. She started listing out reasons why we needed to be there. "It will be a great getaway," she said, almost like she was trying to sell me on a vacation rather than a wedding. "It will help us reconnect in a new environment," she added, bringing up how we hadn't spent quality time outside the house together in a while. Then she threw in, "We rarely attend events together anymore," making it seem like we had completely abandoned our social life as a couple. I still wasn't convinced. Weddings weren't my thing. The idea of sitting through long ceremonies, pretending to care about people I barely spoke to, just didn't appeal to me. And the truth was, things between us weren't exactly great. Ever since we lost the baby, there had been this unspoken tension in our marriage. I felt like a wedding would just be another opportunity for us to pretend things were fine when they weren't. When I refused again, Deborah took a different approach. "Fine," she said, shrugging like it didn't matter anymore. "Can I just go alone then?" That caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting her to push for a solo trip. So I said no. She wasn't happy about that, but she didn't argue either. Instead, she just let it go, at least on the surface. But over the next few days, she kept bringing it up in casual conversations, almost like she was planting seeds in my mind. She would mention how fun it would be, how all our old friends would be there, how it would be nice to get away from everything for a little while. Little by little, it started to sound less like a chore and more like a chance to reset. And that's what I wanted more than anything, to feel like we were on the same team again. Eventually, I gave in. But looking back now, if I knew then what I know now, I would have stood my ground. We traveled together. The flight was quiet. Deborah was on her phone most of the time, and I kept to myself, lost in my thoughts. The wedding itself was fine. We sat with a few mutual friends, made small talk, and went through the motions until I noticed my wife's old crush in the hall. And suddenly, everything made sense. My wife's insistence that we come. It became painfully clear. She knew he was going to be here. At first, I tried to keep my cool. Then she started bringing him up in conversation, but I didn't respond. At some point in the after-party, she excused herself to go to the restroom. I barely thought anything of it until when the guests were called to dance with a couple. Then I looked around and saw her on the dance floor. With him. I watched the way they moved together, the way they leaned in, the way she laughed as they danced. It was a kind of interaction that made people assume they were a couple. After a while, I got up, walked over, and pulled her aside. I expected her to be flustered, to at least acknowledge that she had crossed a line. But instead, she looked at me like I was the problem. "Let me be," she said, her tone dismissive. "I'm not your child." And just like that, she turned her back to me and walked right back onto the dance floor with him. I stood there, humiliated. Every moment of disrespect I had endured over the past year flashed before my eyes. The passive-aggressive remarks, the cold shoulder, the late nights out, the growing distance. And now this. I was done being a part of it. I walked out of that venue and stepped into the cool night air. The hotel wasn't far, but the walk felt endless. When I got to the hotel room, I grabbed my phone, pulled up the airline app, and booked the earliest possible flight home. I wasn't going to sit around and have a fake conversation about how it didn't mean anything. I was done with whatever Deborah had become. I packed my bag and checked out of the hotel, heading straight to the airport. It wasn't until I was standing in line to board my flight that my phone finally rang. Deborah. I wasn't interested in hearing any of it. I let the call ring out. Then another. And another. She kept calling, but I never picked up. By the time I landed and turned on my phone, there were dozens of messages. At first, I thought maybe she'd realized what she did and was apologizing. But as I scrolled through, I saw what I should have expected all along. She wasn't sorry. Not even close. "Wow, so you're really this weak. You're such a crybaby. You always take things too seriously. You're so insecure." It's actually pathetic. You're soft, Andrew. Too soft. No real man would act like this. Reading all that really broke my heart, and I decided to respond. I typed out one final message. Enjoy your life. Our marriage is over. And that was it. By the time Deborah got back home, I was already gone. I had packed my things, moved out, and left nothing behind but the reality she had created for herself. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. At first, Deborah didn't seem to care. In fact, she doubled down. The messages she sent me after seeing I moved out were filled with insults. She laughed at the fact that I left the wedding early and flew home without her as if it was some kind of childish tantrum. To her, I was the problem. I was insecure. I was controlling. I was the one ruining our marriage, not her actions. And for a while I just let her talk. I didn't argue. I had already made up my mind. I was done being disrespected. A few days later, my lawyer served her the divorce papers. That was the moment everything flipped. Suddenly, the insult stopped. The arrogance disappeared. The same woman who mocked me, who made fun of me for walking away, was now desperate to talk. My phone, which had been filled with her taunts, was now full of messages saying, "Please, can we talk?" And I didn't mean those things. At first, I ignored them. I had spent too long trying to make this marriage work while she dismissed my feelings. Now that I had finally drawn the line, I wasn't about to let her sweet-talk me into undoing it. But she didn't stop. She started calling, over and over again. When I didn't answer, she sent voice notes, her tone completely different from before. She wasn't mocking me anymore. She sounded shaken, like she was realizing, for the first time, that I wasn't playing games. In one of the messages, she said, "I've been acting tough because I didn't want to seem weak, but the truth is, I don't want to lose you." She admitted that she had let things get out of control, that she had been reckless, that she had pushed me away without realizing how much damage she was causing. She said she finally understood how her actions had hurt me. And now I was at a crossroads. Divorce isn't easy. It's not just about signing papers and moving on. It's a process, an emotional one. And despite everything, this was still the woman I had built a life with. But then again, could I ever trust her again? Could I really believe that she had changed, or was this just desperation talking? That's the question I keep asking myself. This is an easy decision, and that's why I'm here talking to you. On one hand, I know that a relationship, especially a marriage, can't survive without respect. And looking back at everything that has happened, I can't ignore how many times she's dismissed my feelings. When I first found out she was still in contact with the guy she used to have a crush on, I let it go. I didn't want to seem controlling or insecure. When she started going out more and hanging around her single friends who encouraged her reckless behavior, I tried to be patient. But when she danced with that man at the wedding, right in front of me, I finally hit my limit. Walking away felt like the only thing left to do. But now she's begging me to reconsider. Now she wants to fix things. But the question is, can I even trust her again? I keep thinking, if I take her back, what message does that send? That she can disrespect me and our marriage as much as she wants, and I'll always be there to forgive her? Or is there actually a chance that she realizes how far she went and genuinely wants to change? Because if she really does regret it, then maybe there's a way forward. But how do I know she won't slip back into old habits the moment she feels comfortable again? That's the part one can't figure out. So, over to you watching right now, what do you think I should do? Should I go through with the divorce and end the marriage, knowing there's a real possibility that she already crossed a line with her crush? Or should I give her a chance, sit down with her, and make it clear that her actions have consequences, hoping she finally understands? I've been going back and forth on this, and honestly, I need to hear some different perspectives. So let me know what you think in the comments.